Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing good, and I am here today with the video series on Class 7 Science, Nutrition in Plants. So with this lesson, we are going to start our academic year of 2021 with Class 7 Science. So this is going to be our first chapter. So we are going to cover this entire lesson covering all the topics in detail which is there in your syllabus, and we will cover this entire lesson in 4 videos. So please watch this entire video series of 4 videos to get a crystal clear conceptual understanding on nutrition in plants. So some of the topics that we are going to cover in this lesson are: what is nutrition, different modes of nutrition like autotrophic nutrition, wherein we will discuss about photosynthesis in plants. We will also talk about heterotrophic mode of nutrition, wherein we will talk about saprotrophic nutrition, symbiosis, and a lot of other details. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started.
How do you basically differentiate which is living and which is non-living? So on this screen, you actually see a lot of things on the left hand side which are non-living, like table, chairs, fans, guitar, bell. Whereas on the right hand side, you'll see a lot of animals which are living, like elephant, mouse, birds, human beings, even plants. So these are all living organisms. So what basic difference lies between these two? Now you can say that anything which is living, inside that their bodies, the basic processes are working. So the basic processes are on inside the living organisms. Now what do I mean by the basic processes? You think of a living organism. For example, say the elephant. Now elephant needs food. If you stop giving food to the elephant, what will happen? It will start becoming weak, and over a period of time it will fall ill and it can even die. And once it dies, it is no more living. Right? But if you think of a chair, do you think the chair needs food? The chair needs water? The chair needs oxygen? No, none of these. Why? Because all these needs are not there because there are no processes which are happening inside the body of a chair. But if you look at the body of an elephant, inside the body, so many processes are occurring all the time. For example, the elephant is breathing, so the process of respiration is happening. The elephant is eating, process of digestion is happening. Circulation is happening, through which blood is circulated to different parts of the body. So all these processes which take place inside the body of a living organism, they are called life processes. And these life processes actually distinguishes the living organisms from the non-living ones. So now many people say that, okay, living organisms and non-living organisms, basic difference is that living organisms will move and non-livings won't. But that's not true, because if you look at the plants, they also do not move from one place to another, but they are still living. Why? Because these life processes are taking place inside the body of a plant. So the plant also needs food. So what kind of food the plant needs? Plants need water, plants need sunlight, plants also need the various gases like carbon dioxide, oxygen. So all these things are playing a very important role in the various life processes that takes place inside the body of plants. So what are these different life processes? Now, what are the several processes that happen inside the body of every living organism? Now, here we will just look at the names of the various processes that take place inside our body, and then we will dedicate this lesson on one such life process. Now, some of the life processes are nutrition. Now, when I say nutrition, what is nutrition all about? Have you ever heard of a nutritionist? Maybe if you have ever visited a hospital, you would have seen nutritionist. What is nutrition? Nutrition is nothing but related to food. So it is all about the intake of food. It is all about how food is obtained by a particular living organism, how the food is taken in, how the food gets absorbed inside the body. So all those things come under nutrition. Now, different living organisms have different fooding habits. For example, if you talk about human beings eat both plants as well as animals. Now, some of the human beings are vegetarian, some of them are non-vegetarian. If you think of, say, a starfish, so the food which the starfish eats is going to be quite different than that of human beings. Right? Again, if you talk about the nutrition in case of plants, so they are also going to have different types of food requirements. So they need water, they need sunlight, so their requirements are different. So nutrition is one important life process, because through nutrition it gives food to the living organism, and that food provides energy to the living organism to perform a variety of activities. Another life process is respiration. What happens in respiration? Respiration is the process where exchange of gases take place. Basically, you're breathing. So when we breathe, what do? We actually take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. And why do we do that? Because each and every cell inside our body, each and every part of our body needs oxygen. So how do we bring oxygen inside our body? Through breathing. So the entire process which takes place, that is respiration, and oxygen is required in order to obtain energy from the food which we have eaten, because nutrition just takes care of the fact that we eat food and the food gets digested. But how do we get energy out of that food? That again is controlled by the process of respiration. Then comes transportation. Now, okay, so food is prepared. The food has entered inside our body. Oxygen has been made available to the body. So the food has been absorbed by the body. Now that food needs to be transported to different parts of our body, because our body is like quite large. We have hands, legs, and each part of our body needs energy. Not only our body. I'm talking about any living organism. You talk of a plant. So in plant also, the entire plant needs energy. The roots, the stem, the shoots, the flowers, everything needs energy. So the transportation, that is the circulation of the food, takes place in this life process. Next is excretion, that is throwing out the waste materials. Now the body doesn't want any waste. So all the waste materials need to be thrown out of the body by this process of excretion. Control and coordination. In this, proper synchronization is maintained between different organs of the body. For example, you think of human beings. Now when you touch a hot cup of coffee, what do? As soon as you touch the cup, you immediately take your hand back. So you took your hand back. Why? Because your mind instructed your hand to come back. So basically there was a synchronization, or there was a coordination between your mind and your hand. So all these type of coordinated or synchronized movements of our body fall under control and coordination. Reproduction, that is the production of species or production of organisms of similar kind, generations after generation, so that the species can be sustained. So all living organisms reproduce. If a particular organism stops reproducing, what will happen? Over a period of time, that species will get extinguished, because that species will no more be there. So it will become extinct. Growth and development. So you see a baby is born, and then after 10 years, the baby is like quite big, a young boy. Again, after 20 years, he is grown into a man. So how does that growth, the growth in height, weight, and overall growth and development which takes place inside the body, that is also a life process. So the size of the organism overall changes. Movement. So a lot of organisms are capable of moving from one place to another. However, if you talk of plants, they cannot move from one place to another. However, some parts of the plants are flexible enough and they can move. So one very simple example would be the touch me not plant. So have you ever come across a touch me not? Even if not, you must have heard about it. So which is also called chuimui in India. So when you touch the plant, what happens is it just shrinks. So that movement is again present in plants also. So these are the various life processes which take place inside the body of every living organism. So now our focus in this lesson is on nutrition. So nutrition is all about food. So we want to understand why are we talking about nutrition first of all, and what exactly an organism needs to do to obtain food, how it gets its food, and then how that food gets digested inside our body. So we are going to talk a bit about food. So why do you think we eat food? Now we eat food, not only we, but all living organisms again. So whether you talk about us, we eat food in the form of maybe milk, vegetables, fruits, maybe fish, meat. So that's how we eat food. In case of plants, they eat food in terms of water, in terms of minerals, in terms of sunlight. So those are the requirements for a plant to grow. Now, to do any kind of work, we need energy. Now, when we say any kind of work, just think of the types of work which we do. Whether we do exercise or you do some hard work while cutting a tree, which you should not do, of course, or when you are jogging. So what's happening when you are doing all these things? So when you do all these things, you tend to get tired. Why? Because you're spending energy. Now, when you spend energy, what do you need? Your body needs more energy. And how do you get that energy? Of course, from the food which we eat. So energy comes from food, and that energy is needed for everything. Now, not only the physical activities, even for mental activities. When you think, when you are studying, so maybe you are just sitting on your chair and you are studying for 2 hours, but at the end of 2 hours, what happens? You get tired. So you didn't jog, you didn't exercise, you didn't dance, there was no physical activity, then why did you get tired? Because your mind was continuously working, your brain was continuously working while you were studying. So even that needs energy. So you spent a lot of energy by studying for 2 hours. So now you need some more energy. In fact, you will be surprised to know that even when we sleep, so that time the expenditure of energy is minimum, that's true, but a lot of life processes are even then taking place inside our body because we have just slept, we are still alive. So a lot of life processes, for example, the transportation process, so where the circulation of blood is still going on, we are still breathing, so the process is still happening. So all these life processes, they also need energy to work. So for respiration, they need energy. For transportation, again, the process needs energy. So that is something which is happening all the time. So if you look at these variety of activities, you get to know that yes, if we do not have energy, we will not be able to do any of these, right? And in order to have energy, we need to eat food. Now, what does our food consist of? Food contains some important substances which help in our growth, development, and which provide us energy. So the variety of food items which we eat, they all provide those substances which are essential for growth and development of our body, for the maintenance of the various life processes. So what do these food items contain? They contain nothing but nutrients. Now, not only in case of human beings, even in case of plants also, they also need nutrition. Now, how do they need nutrition, or in what form do they need nutrition? So in plants, if you see, they can't live without light, water. So they need food in terms of nutrients again. So from where do they get nutrients? Not only from water and light, they get nutrients from the soil as well. So you see, their roots are like very firmly attached to the soil, because through the root hairs they are actually absorbing the minerals. So there are so many dissolved minerals like sodium, potassium, nitrogen, phosphorus, and they are all essential for growth and development of plants. So that's how even plant need nutrition. So here in this lesson, we are going to talk about plant nutrition. So what is plant nutrition? It is the process of obtaining food and utilizing it for growth, repair, and metabolism. So how do plants obtain their food? What do they do with that food? So that is what all that comes under plant nutrition. So if you look at a plant, so you see when you water the plant every day, when you actually have a proper arrangement of soil for that plant, it is getting appropriate sunlight, you actually observe the same plant for some time, you will actually see the plant growing. Now you stop giving water to the plant, you start keeping it inside a dark room where there is no sunlight. What will you observe? You will see that after a couple of days, the plant dies. That's because the plant is deprived of nutrition. Now, when I say nutrition, I am talking about making the nutrients or making those essential substances available to the plants, which are essential for its growth, which are essential for its metabolic activities, that is the life processes taking place inside, which are essential for its repair, so that somewhere something happens, so for that tissue repair or for the repair of those cells, so for that also it needs energy. So for all these purposes, it needs food, it needs nutrients. So what are nutrients? Nutrients are those substances that provide nourishment needed for growth and maintenance of life. You would have observed that your mom often advises you that, okay, you should drink at least 2 glasses of milk per day, you should eat some fruits, that is going to give you energy, that will help you to grow. Right? You'd have seen the advertisements on television where they say that drink Complan, so you will be taller, so you will have a good growth. So whenever you talk about growth, so growth is related to the kind of food which you eat. So the food which you eat, again, what kind of food you are eating, that is more important, because the food contains nutrients. Now, whichever nutrients are more important for your body, you have to take those nutrients in the right amount. For example, if you start eating only pizzas all the time, what's going to happen? Pizza doesn't contain a lot of nutrients. So over a period of time, even though you are eating a lot of food, you are eating a lot of pizza, but your body is not getting nutrients. So you will be deprived of a lot of nutrients. So when we talk about nutrition, we talk about the right food which needs to be taken and what happens to that food when it goes inside your body. So right now we are talking about plant nutrition. So we will talk about the food which are essential for the plants, how they get those food and what happens to the food once it gets inside the body of a plant. So for human beings, maybe these all could be the nutrients, maybe milk or cheese or fish or meat. So all these could be nutrients. Some of these are rich in calcium, some are rich in protein, some are rich in carbohydrates. So all these like carbohydrates, proteins, so these are all different nutrients. These are all examples of nutrients and we need all of them for growth and for maintenance of life. So it is not only about us. Even in case of plants also they need nutrients. So why do plants need nutrition? For growth, of course, because even plants need to grow. Now the need of nutrition is different for different organisms. So different organisms need different nutrients in different quantities depending upon the life processes that take place inside the body of that organism. So when you talk about plants, growth is a very important aspect for which they need food. Tissue repair. So any damage that happens to any part of the plant, so the plant should have enough energy to self-repair that part. So tissue repair. Reproduction. So even plants need to sustain their species. So for that they need to reproduce. Now plants can reproduce both sexually as well as asexually. So you will learn about reproduction in plants in one of the coming lessons. Metabolism, that is the various life processes comes here, the various metabolic activities which are taking place inside the plant. So for all these they need energy, and from where will they get energy? So that energy is obtained from the nutrition. So we will see how exactly plant obtain their nutrition. Resistance against diseases, that is also very important. Now plants also can get a lot of disease. Now just like in human beings, so if you eat healthy, if you are taking good amount of nutrients in your food, what happens? Your body remains strong. So you develop resistance against diseases. So you do not fall ill very frequently. So the same is true for plants also. not only plants, any organisms, if you talk about any living organism, there are basically two modes of nutrition. And what are those two modes? Autotrophic and heterotrophic. So these are the two basic modes of nutrition for all living organisms. Now when I say auto means self. So autotrophic nutrition is that type of nutrition where the organism is self-dependent. That means the organism prepares its own food. So it is not dependent on any other living organism for its food. So that is autotrophic. When we say heterotrophic, hetero means others. So that means the organism depends on other organisms. So depends on other organisms for their food. Now you might say that now let's take example of human beings. So what do you think? Human beings are autotrophic or heterotrophic? Now you might say that we prepare our own food. So we prepare the vegetables, we cook the vegetables, we prepare chapati. So we prepare our own food. But if you look at the raw materials which you use in your kitchen, so do you think you prepare those raw materials yourself? You either use vegetables which are obtained from plants, or you use some fruits which are again obtained from plants, or you use some other animals like fish or egg or meat. So they are obtained from other animals. So basically we are dependent either on plants or on other animals for our food. So we fall under the heterotrophic category. So we have a heterotrophic mode of nutrition. But there are living organisms which have autotrophic mode of nutrition as well. And the best example is plants. So first we will talk about autotrophic nutrition. So again, autotrophic nutrition, as we said, that it is seen in plants, because plants, they prepare their own food starting from raw materials. So they just prepare their own food. They do not depend on any other living organism for their food. Instead, all other living organisms depend on plants for their food. Now in autotrophic nutrition also, there can be two types of plants. One is photosynthetic plants. So these category of plants, they perform the process of photosynthesis to prepare their food. So photosynthesis, photo means light. So they prepare their food in presence of sunlight. So that is one category. The other category is chemosynthetic. What is chemosynthetic? Chemo means chemicals. So here with the help of chemicals, they prepare their food. So basically these are the two categories of plants. However, both of them prepare their own food. So they are autotrophic. So now it is not necessary that all plants have to be autotrophic. There are few plants which are heterotrophic, that is they depend on other plants or animals for their food. Again, there are few plants which are again saprotrophic or parasitic. So we are going to talk about all those types, but majority of plants are autotrophic. So they prepare their own food. So this is true for majority of the plants. So examples of organisms which have autotrophic nutrition are plants, some algae, bacteria. So these are all autotrophic nutrition. Next is heterotrophic, that is those which depend on others for their food. So as I gave you example of human beings. Now heterotrophic organisms can be saprophytic. What do we mean by saprophytic? That means they eat dead and decaying organisms. So those organisms which eat dead and decaying, so some dead bodies, so they are eaten by organisms, they are called saprophytic. Parasitic, that means they live inside the body of some other organism and obtain its food from that organism. So if you think of examples like the worms, there are several worms which live inside our intestine, right? So those worms, they derive their food from our body. So that means they are heterotrophic. But in heterotrophic, what is their type? Parasitic, because they are living inside the body of another living organism. So the worm is living inside the body of human beings. So they are parasitic. So there is another type called holozoic. Holozoic is nothing but those heterotrophic organisms which take in solid food. So intake of solid food happens in these organisms. So human beings have heterotrophic and they have holozoic type of nutrition because we take in solid food. Solid in the sense solid liquid food. We take in food through our mouth, which is in the form of some substance. So animals, humans, fungi, insectivorous plants, these are all examples of heterotrophic nutrition. So here you see these insectivorous plants, that means these plants, they feed on insects. So they also have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. In fact, there are some other plants also which are not capable of performing photosynthesis. They are not capable of preparing their own food. So they are also heterotrophic. So basically these are the two main modes of nutrition.
I hope this video was useful. Our agenda for the next video would be to understand the process of photosynthesis in plants in a lot more detail. So be with us.